So first I kind of want to just jump in because John, obviously you got to be this character for Suicide Squad and we got to see just a little bit of who Peacemaker was, but can you kind of tease for people who don't know the character or people who are getting excited about the show, what they can expect to see?
Yeah, this is a guy who certainly thinks he is the status of a superhero and is hit with some pretty bold truths that he is a little bit less virtuous than he sees that man in the mirror. And in going on another quest, he's brave enough to face some of those bold truths and find out that he is heavily flawed. And I think the intrigue to the character came from his ability to do such, for lack of a better term, shitty things in the name of peace. And his core value, peace at any cost, is a contradiction in terms that's quite interesting. And you'll get to explore that a little more as we go through the series.
When did you find out and how excited were you when you found out you were going to get to bring this character from Suicide Squad into the HBO Max series?
I don't want to use a bad term, but I pooped my pants. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I get to play this character. So at first I was just like, I was playing it really cool because you never know what's going to happen. At some point he told me that Amelia was going to be a part of the series. And I thought, oh, cool. I'll get to hang out and play a little bit.
I found out really late into it. Like James called me and he said, just so you know, we're doing a Peacemaker spin-off show. He'd already written like first drafts. And I was like, what? When did this happen? And he's like, I didn't want to tell you and get your hopes up in case it didn't happen. And so that was like late September, early October, and we were shooting in January. So it was a complete shock.
It was a thrill to get a call from James Gunn, who I really didn't know that well. And he said, I wrote this part for you. And you're this dad, you're a horrible human being. And I'd really like you to do it. I said, sure, I'm in, man, let's go. So Archie Bunker on steroids kind of was the way we kind of ciphered through what this guy was.
Peter, for you on this one, what are you most excited for the fans to see from the series?
Obviously I'm most excited for them to see John Cena dancing in his tighty whities. That is something that I think everybody needs a little bit of that in their life. In fact, a lot of that in their life. But I think really just the opportunity to expand what James did in the Suicide Squad. And, you're limited in a 2-hour movie in terms of how much you can develop these individual characters, particularly with a large ensemble. So to have 8 hours to be able to really explore all of these characters, not just John, but also, Leota and Harcourt and Economos and everybody else. And to have James's unique point of view on all of them is just a pleasure. I mean, people have never had that kind of opportunity to enjoy James's content for such a long period like this.
I feel like we definitely got to see in the end credits sometimes some of the improv and like playful parts that don't end up in the full episode. How often were you guys breaking on set or did things where it was like, maybe that was too far?
Yeah.
That happened a lot. There was one scene with you. There was one line. Oh, I don't know. It's in a trailer, I think. How do you do with when you do badly in school? Am I allowed to say that?
Oh yeah. And what do you do when you only get 50% in school? A DF. That line. Yeah.
Every time I was on the other end of that scene, so I wasn't on camera, and Chuck and John would do that line, and you do takes 10, 20 times because you have to do it from all the different angles, and every single time they did that, I burst into hysterics. I had to hold my nose, and it didn't get old. Like every time I watched it over and over again, every time they did it, I just lost it.
I actually laughed when I saw it on the trailer again, even though we did it. You know what I mean? So, to answer your question, there was a lot of laughing, and it wasn't just the actors, the crew, the cameraman, James Gunn on the God mic sniggering. I'm sure Matt was sniggering somewhere in the producer's corner. So that was such a joyous thing to hear, because I feel personally, when you get the crew, who are hardened professionals, to be that involved in the emotional life of a scene, you're doing something good.
I want to just hear how you would describe the dynamic and the energy of this show.
I think the show is really like nothing else that DC has made so far. It feels like very much of a singular voice. And in the same way, this is not really what you asked, but in the same way, it's not, but like in the same way that when Christopher Nolan sort of took over the Batman franchise, it was of a singular voice. It really felt like very specific tonally. This is obviously like an infinitely different tone, and it's much more playful and irreverent and comedic. But it is very singularly from one guy's head. And so, you know, that's the best way I can describe it is in a DC show, a superhero show about a really deeply flawed human being through the mind of James Gunn.